Hi everyone, Catherine here. This is going to be a very different video than my normal weekly video. So I'm interrupting normal diversity and inclusion programming to deal with coronavirus, something that is now touches everyone. There isn't anyone who isn't impacted based on this point in time, March 18th, 2020. The lens I want you to put on this, in terms of what I'm speaking about, is diversity and inclusion. So, right now, there's a current context in the world of fear. People are driven by fear. Everyone is so afraid right now. And in the normal context of diversity and inclusion in the workplace, we're not present to that fear. It actually runs behind us in terms of unconscious bias, but we're not present to it on a day-to-day basis. Right now, we're present to this incredible amount of fear around other people, around the economy, around circumstances. And people are finding it, your employees included, are finding it terrifying. Um, my heart was breaking about a month ago when I was speaking to my Italian mother-in-law. And Italy has been on lockdown much sooner and much more severely than a lot of other countries in the world. But she said to me, in the context was Italian planes and ships were being turned around and returned to Italy. And she was crying out like, Catherine, people don't want Italians. Like, she was really taking this onto her heart. She was really feeling this discrimination around her nationality. And what I said to her was, Mama, it's not that people don't want Italians, it's that people don't want coronavirus. And this distinguishing between the people and the disease, is really important. And in the normal context of diversity and inclusion, we don't have this distinction. We mostly run around being afraid of people, only we're not aware that we're afraid of people. This is why we tend to group ourselves in the diversity characteristics that we have ourselves, because it's much more comfortable to be with people who are similar to us than people that are different to us. The next thing I want to talk to you about is unconscious bias, because we all have it, we all know we have it, and yet the only way to really combat unconscious bias on a systemic level is through process. Just like the way we will heal ourselves globally from the coronavirus is through process. That's why quarantine is so important. That's why it's so important that we're following, the guidelines by our nation, World Health Organization, our nation's advice, our organization's advice, our society and community's advice, our family's advice. And in this time, a lot of people can just want to turn away from this whole thing and go, oh, I just don't want to deal with it. I just don't want to deal with it. I want to ignore it. But if we're not being responsible, this thing is going to drag out a lot longer than it needs to. And finally, privilege. Is autoimmunity the new privilege? So, for those of us privileged people in the world, again, it can be like, let's not look at this, let's not deal with this, from our privileged places of, living in nations that have good health services, or living in places that, living in countries like Slovakia or Sweden, who took real decisive action, and in a very short time, it's already turning around for them. Privilege to live where there's clean water, privilege to live where you can still get toilet paper. Is this the new form of privilege? And privilege is not like you have it or you don't have it. Privilege is a spectrum. So consider wherever you are on the spectrum, and there will always be people who have more, there will always be people who have less. But in your current circumstances, where is your privilege, and how can you act from your privilege for the benefit of other people? Because doing things for other people is actually what feeds our souls as human beings. It's actually what fulfills us and enlivens us. So, in this current context of coronavirus, where you might be absolutely losing your mind or being around people who are just absolutely losing it, try to bring some perspective. And isn't it beautiful that we can look at this virus through the lens of diversity and inclusion, and take the same best practice approach that we would as if we were, running an effective diversity inclusion strategy. Isn't it great that we can use that learning? And if you're in an organization, you're in lockdown, like no one's talking about anything else besides coronavirus, everything is being canceled, everybody's going online, everybody's working from home. Now is not the time to think that D&I is some airy fairy, like nice to have. Now more than ever, it is critical to bring this agenda to your organization. And also, if everyone's working from home, they people need something to be uplifted to. Take your D&I programs online, give people webinars. If you need any ideas or support with that, send me a private message. I'd be happy to help. But for sure right now, people need something that's going to grow, stimulate them, get them in possibility so that we can move quickly out of survival mode from this current crisis. So that's my download for you on D&I today. And I will see you next week, hopefully for regularly scheduled programming. Take care. Bye.